So there are sort of independent, objective facts that we could cite to support this criticism of the ticking bomb case and of warrants sort of generally. So we can look at similar judicial review cases and see how much confidence we have that the right people are getting tagged in these cases. So I think when we look at death penalty cases, it dramatically undermines our confidence in this idea of judicial review. But I think it doubly undermines our confidence in the ability of individuals to make gut reaction judgments about whether or not they're really in a ticking bomb case. So when we go and look at death penalty cases, what we discover is that there's a huge number of false convictions in death penalty cases. Now, unlike these ticking bomb cases where we're going to have this highly compressed temporal judicial review, or we're going to have, Jack Reacher making a decision on the spur of the moment based on his assessment, right? What we're going to have and what we have in death penalty cases are teams of individuals who do the investigative work, teams of individuals who create and prosecute the case in court, judicial review, extended appeals, multiple usually appeals of judicial reviews, and millions of dollars. So every death penalty case takes decades to play out. It involves tons of individuals doing extensive research. It costs millions of dollars, and the judgments receive intense scrutiny. Nevertheless, even in these situations, even with these cases of judicial review, when we look at executions that have been performed between the period 1979 and around 2010 until of about 1014, for every 7 executions that occurred during that period, one prisoner was found to be innocent. So that's a 13% false conviction rate. And in some cases, it's shockingly worse. So when Illinois went back and started using DNA testing in their death penalty cases, what they ended up having is 13 overturned convictions. That's 13 overturned convictions in a state where they had only executed 12 people. And so these sorts of outcomes in these high stakes, temporally extended, expensive cases where lots of people are doing the best they can to get the right answer should be really frightening to us when we're looking at these incredibly temporally compressed judicial review cases, or even worse, Jack Reacher sitting around trying to decide what to do at the spur of the moment based on his convictions. How much confidence do we have that only the people with the right information who are really terrorists are going to get tortured in this process? So it's not just about torture, it's about the torture of innocence when we look at the criterion here by this standard. And there's more evidence to make us worry about this as well. When we look at eyewitness testimony, there have been a number of studies that have reviewed the reliability of eyewitness testimony in situations that are parallel to legal proceedings. And so one example is a paper by Cutler and Penrod that was published in 1995. And what they found was that 34 to 38% of eyewitness identifications, in fact, identified the wrong person. They were false. When they went back and examined eyewitness identification accuracy using controlled studies performed in natural settings. And this is a kind of staggeringly bad ability to rely on in highly scrutinized and incredibly important judicial proceedings. And so how much confidence are we really going to have, even when we've got an eyewitness identifying someone, or we go through this process of highly compressed judicial review, that we're really getting all and only the people who really, even on this criterion, ought to be tortured. Now, Scarry also points out that the ticking bomb case assumes that the only plausible source of information in those cases is going to be the confession of a suspect. It can only be, of course, elicited by torture. But as she notes, right, this has never actually happened. That, in fact, when we had intelligence that could have prevented tragedies like 9/11, we had the intelligence from other sources, not torture, not captured suspects, other sources. And sadly, the intelligence was never acted on. So she notes that in 9/11, they had actionable intelligence to the effect that American Airlines Flight 77 was likely hijacked and heading for the Pentagon. And they had that information at least 90 minutes before the plane hit the Pentagon. And no one was evacuated on the basis of that information. And so if we're looking for ways to minimize innocent casualties in cases like this, it's not obvious that torturing someone to get an answer is going to make any difference at all. Actually, acting on actionable intelligence might have saved the lives of all the people who died in the Pentagon. So, again, it really questions this idea that we're going to be in a very good position knowledge-wise in these situations. So those are her three criticisms that are directed sort of specifically at the ticking bomb case. And as I said, I find them kind of uneven, both in their conception and in their validity. But I think the next two objections that we're going to look at are actually more powerful and things that we haven't actually mentioned up to this point.